Living Waters presents On the Box.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the, what day of the week is it? It's Thursday, the Thursday edition of On the Box. People.
It's the wind.
It's the wind. Oh, man.
Yeah,
was it windy down here in Buffalo?
No.
Up in Santa Clarita.
Yeah.
I said where I live. I don't care. Up in Santa Clarita.
You live in Santa Clarita?
I live in Santa Clarita, California! Elevation about 1,300 feet, population close to 250,000 in the entire valley. That's where I worked as a deputy sheriff for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Love that town. But man, does it get windy up there.
It was 100 miles an hour apparently in some places.
Well, here's the thing. We, my lovely wife, Maria.
What other one have you got, obviously?
Yeah, I don't have any other wives other than my lovely wife, Maria. She's very conscientious about recycling plastic and what have you. And it makes us a few bucks every now and again. And
so
you're trying to figure out, what does this have to do with the wind?
So the wind took it to the neighbors.
Well, here's the thing. We stack all of our plastic out on the patio in bags and dumpsters and things like that. And we spent a little bit of our time yesterday evening collecting plastic from all over our patio and outside our patio because the wind just blew it all over the place. So.
Yeah, we didn't get much down here. It's a very warm wind, though, isn't it? Santa Ana?
Santa Ana's warm winds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't the Santa Ana Satan wind? Is that what it...
Santa Ana? Santanas is Satan in Spanish.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Great show so far, though, huh?
Yeah,
Don't you think? Yeah.
Very powerful. God's like the wind.
Yeah, was it windy
Yes.
in Corona? Or wherever?
Where do you live, Mark?
Well, you know, it was actually very windy last night. I mean, it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I went running in my backyard trying to collect all the cushions from around my the tables that I have back there. And I have a glass table with 4 glass inserts that went flying.
I don't care.
And surprisingly enough, they did not break. But they did hit really hard on the cement floor. We have a volleyball court out there that the kids had set up that was still intact, to my surprise. But it was pretty windy.
Where do I live, Tony?
Right here.
Yeah.
I mean, the atheists think that this is your
Oh, this is my
mansion.
house. Yeah,
Yes,
with the big pillars
converted
out the
mortuary
front.
that's now the ministry. Yeah.
Resurrected it was. So anyway, it's a great show.
We did something fun yesterday afternoon.
Yes.
We went to Warren High School in Downey, which is only about 10, 15 minutes from here. And a friend of ours is a teacher there. I'm going to try not to get everybody
You're going to get in trouble. I was just going to. A friend of ours is not a teacher. We don't owe anybody.
So anyways, about 2,000 or 3,000 students just flood out of that school on
wonderful.
foot. And we distributed 1,300 180 DVDs yesterday.
The video is on Facebook. I just dropped it in.
It's already on
yes,
Facebook.
Yes, really good.
Well, we're going to show it right here.
Oh, good.
We're off to another giveaway at a local high school. There's apparently
Anything
3,000
else
kids
there?
coming out at 3 minutes past 2 or something like that. So we could get trampled to death, but I don't think so. We're going to have a wonderful time giving out DVDs to kids. So let's see what happens. Free movies. You seen it? Good work. Totally free. Free movie. It's a free movie. Folks, this is free. Doesn't cost anything. Totally free. Free. Like nothing. Doesn't cost anything. Award-winning. Million hits on YouTube. Free movie. This is free. Doesn't cost anything. Okay? It's an award-winning movie. It's completely free. It's a free movie. It's called 180. This is free. Doesn't cost anything.
All right, so that
There
was...
were other people there besides me.
Yes, there were other people there.
Wonderful,
we had,
faithful workers.
We had several people, obviously, from the ministry. We also had 3 folks that came out to join us, Jeff, Ernest, and Jessica. Jessica, who's the cousin of an academy grad, I found out when she got here to the ministry that she had never done anything like this before. I think this might have been her first real evangelism
Oh, how
effort.
cool. That's
Yeah,
a sink or
and so it
swim.
was neat to have her out there with us. So.
We teamed up.
Yeah.
And we had people, parents go past in a car when you were standing.
So we're driving around the school because we don't want to set up too early, and tip the school off. And so I got out of my car, the van's driving around, and I'm doing just a little recon on foot. Of course, I'm wearing a bright red 180 shirt. Yeah, deep undercover. And as I'm walking towards the school, there's a minivan. It's obviously a parent coming to pick up their kid, and the dad, he leans out the window and goes, "Oh, 180, that's a great movie!"
Yeah.
So I stood with my back against the wall until we were ready to go. So, there was one thing that was discouraging to me, though, yesterday. Just one. And that was how many of the kids who came out of the school asked me, laughingly, almost hopefully,
porn?
"Hey, is this pornography?"
Yeah.
It just...
That's very sad.
boys and girls,
Yeah,
not just the guys,
yeah.
but the girls as well. And
The 14, 15-year-olds.
yeah. So, Mark, what were your thoughts about what we did yesterday?
Boy, it was a lot of fun. Now, you said it was Jessica's first time going out there, you think?
I think so. She had never done anything like what we did yesterday.
Boy, she did great. It was her and I at one exit, and we handed out close to 500 DVDs, and we could have used help where we were at, but she was a trooper out there handing those out.
Oh, that's great.
I was taking note myself, so she did great.
Good. And look, folks, this is really easy to do. All right, everything we did was legal yesterday. We're on a public sidewalk. If you go to heartchanger.com and you click on the link to get involved, you'll find on that page a link to a letter from the Alliance Defense Fund that spells out all of our constitutional rights to distribute material on public sidewalks in front of schools. It is legal, no matter what the school says. If they come out and say, "Hey, we don't want you doing this," well, that's too bad. What we were doing was legal, and it's very, very easy. It took us about 30 minutes, maybe even a little less than that.
And it's a joyful experience.
It
You come away
is,
feeling
it's
good.
a lot of fun.
Giving
And-
away stuff.
Yeah, and it's a great way to get the documentary into kids' hands. Most importantly, to get the gospel into kids' hands. So.
And to their homes, to their parents.
That's right.
So it's
That's
a
right.
double
And we
whammy.
were handing them out to some of the parents in
They-
cards as they were waiting. So, great opportunity. We've started to collect on heartchanger.com a list of all the schools, high schools that have been hit, and how many DVDs have been handed out. And so, if you're out there and if you have or are planning to distribute 180 DVDs at your local high school, email us at heartchanger@livingwaters.com, heartchanger@livingwaters.com, with the name of the school, what state, and how many DVDs you handed out, and we'll add it to the list on the Heart Changer site.
And ask your pastor if you can do it as a church.
Yes.
It's a wonderful thing, and you can raise your finance with a little list of way to raise finances on heartchange.com. Maybe take up a love offering, just share about it at your local church or whatever.
All right, OA with RA.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, it was your idea, right?
No, it's called I'm Sorry, Tori.
I'm sorry.
For that.
All right, as we have done for the last few days, we're looking at an article written by R.A. Torrey on open air preaching. He's got a lot of wisdom to share, and he's got a pretty good mustache, too. And so we like him on that level as well. Mark, have you ever had a mustache?
I was married with a goatee all the way around. Yeah,
Really?
absolutely. There's no pictures of it, though, because my cameraman's flash was off. We had a night wedding outside, and somehow the flash was like a quarter of a second behind the actual picture.
Oh.
So I paid him anyways, and I was expecting something.
You
at
might
least
be watching right now.
Oh, boy. Yeah, so, Mike, if you're watching right now, I don't want to
Sit
give
the
your name
money
away.
back.
You're a great
We're
photographer.
giving everything else away.
Where does he live?
Yeah.
I actually have no idea where he's at. But when he gave me my pictures back, they were all black. And I go, "What's up with these?" He said, "My flash wasn't working." And he didn't give me a refund on my what I'd given him. I mean, he made me pay
Yeah,
in full.
Mike's probably not in that business anymore. Maybe. I
Laura's
don't know.
sad.
There's got to be a one-liner there somewhere.
You know what you need to do? Mark, how many years have you been married?
Almost 13.
Almost 13.
Just have a
Maybe it's
remarriage.
time,
Yeah.
it's time to renew your vows and get lots
Eddie,
of pictures.
get Eddie to take photos.
Yeah, get Eddie and Carrie.
Or even get married during the day.
Or in a well-lit room.
Yes. There's no pictures of your wedding?
No,
Did you
there
get
were
a
a couple
certificate
people
or
that
anything?
were attending the wedding that took some pictures from their camera. So we got a couple pictures. Nothing's good, but it's just as well because I didn't look good with a goatee. So you don't want to see
I was going to say it. So anyway, you got a wonderful marriage, Mark.
Yes. Pictures or no? All right. Hey, before we talk about...
Hey,
Hey, you like that? Open air preaching with R.A. Torrey. I want to give a shout-out.
You what?
A shout-out
Okay.
to the track man, the track master, Nathan. Brad Snow's son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from what I've heard, Nathan is a machine when it comes to handing out tracts.
Yes, he is.
He does not take no for an answer. He is dauntless and inspired.
Do we have video
and
or
intrepid.
anything?
We don't have any video. Maybe Brad can get that next time they're
Oh,
out.
the flash wasn't working.
Flash wasn't working. But anyways,
Maybe
Nathan.
we could show some Mark's wedding photos.
Oh, wow. We're going to have to make some.
Laura's crying
it's
right
just
now.
like-
We don't want to do anything to embarrass or offend Laura.
No, okay.
Right. Mark can take it. Laura probably can too, but
I'm just thinking
she's
of
sweet.
a black blank screen would do it.
Anyways, way to go, Nathan. Keep handing out those tracts. The tract master, Nathan Snow. All right.
Wow.
R.A. Torrey says you can reach men in an open-air meeting that you cannot reach in no other way. I can tell of an instance after instance where men who have not been at church or a mission hall for years have been reached by open-air meetings. The persons I've known to be reached and converted through open-air meetings have included thieves, drunkards, gamblers, saloon keepers, abandoned women, murderers, lawyers, doctors, theatrical people, society people. In fact, pretty much every class. Open-air preaching can reach certain types of people that churches won't.
That's just everybody.
That's just about everybody.
Thieves, drunkards, lawyers, it's all.
I think he went to like 1 Corinthians 6 and just
I
okay.
think
That's
so. I think so.
What do you think about that, Ray?
I can't add anything to it. I think Torrey's just wonderful. All those quotes that we're going to look at are you just got to say amen to them. That's it. You go where the fish are, and that's where the fish are. Mark, what are you going to say?
You know, Leighton Ford, Billy Graham's contemporary during his early years, he had said, I believe that it's my thrust to go into the highways, the byways, and the gutterways to compel the people to come. So in other words, he was just simply saying, I think the world is where I need to go. That is my sanctuary. I'm going to go wherever there's people, where people are at. So,
and Jesus did say, go into all the world.
Just reminded of something I wrote for next Monday's update. I had a breakthrough.
By the way, I loved... Oh.
Is this about the chicken coop?
Is that what you're going to share?
Yeah.
That's great, Ray. I love that.
Yeah, you built it up.
Okay.
It's a high bar. I didn't used to like cleaning out a chicken coop for obvious reasons, but I did something that made the whole thing almost a breeze. And I got a flat shovel before I got in, and I just made a little pathway, just a narrow little pathway for myself, so it got rid of all the stuff. And then I stepped into that clean little path and just cleaned it up. Just tossed it, got out, and then if there was any residue on my shoes, I just hosed them off. And that's what we do when it comes to evangelism. We have to go into this filthy world, and all we do is carve out a path mentally for ourselves, a path of righteousness, a straight, narrow path. And if any of the filth of the world clings to us, we just go to the hose of 1 John 1:9 and hose it off. And God's made provision for that.
Yeah.
So.
You know, oftentimes we've been asked during the academy and surrounding the academy, you know, why do you guys go to Huntington Beach? You know, there's, you know, so much lasciviousness and everything, and decadence, and you know, people are only half dressed or less. And our answer is simple. That's where lost and dying people are.
Right.
We have to go where the lost and dying people
That's where I would have been if I wasn't a Christian. I'd be out there surfing.
Yeah.
And looking at all the string things as they came in.
And so you pray up, you go places like that with accountability. You know, if you see your brother or sister's eyes wandering or lingering too long where they shouldn't, give them an elbow in the side and say, hey, what are you doing?
You know,
I pull them aside, pray.
You know, the accountability I go with, the fear of the Lord.
Well, that's good
Because
accountability.
you can hide from your buddies. You know, they don't know what you're thinking. A quick look here and there, but you can't hide that from God. So the best accountability is the fear of the Lord.
You're right. Absolutely. All right. What if someone doesn't believe taking God's name in vain is a sin?
Well, what if someone doesn't believe raping a woman is a crime. It doesn't make any difference. It's what the law says. And the law says you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. So there it is, written in stone. It's not like civil law or criminal law. It's permanent. Yeah. It's eternal. So it doesn't matter if someone doesn't believe. And I think it's so crazy how the world has got this attitude because they don't believe in something and therefore it's not true. Yeah, it's like, so I like to say, see that building over there? Let's both believe it doesn't exist and doesn't change reality. Yeah. And so people have to face God on Judgment Day, and that is the eternal law that they will face. And if they if they've used his name in vain or not given it due honor, which is using it in vain, they're in big trouble on Judgment Day. In fact, the Old Testament demands a death sentence for using God's name in blasphemy. Well, think of how many people would be under God's wrath, daily, which they are.
I don't think there would be any more shows on
We've become a blasphemous nation. Yeah. You just watch the news on television almost every night. Someone's using God's name in vain. Yeah. Even commentators.
I often use this analogy when I'm explaining blasphemy to people when I'm open air preaching or in one-on-one conversations. If there's a nearby movie theater, let's say you I find out who they really love in this life, and typically it's mom or dad. So you take your mom to a movie, you sit down, you buy the popcorn and the soda. A few minutes into the movie, one of the main characters uses your mother's name as the punchline to a dirty joke. Mm-hmm. A few minutes later, another character uses your mom's name as a filthy curse word. And then every few minutes throughout the movie, one character after another throws your mom's name around as if it were dirt. Yeah. Would that offend you? Yeah. And most reasonable people will say yes. Would it offend your mother? Yes. Well, that is what you do when you take God's name in vain. You take the name of the God who has given you life and you bring it down low as if it's of no value whatsoever. Yeah. And that is very serious in the eyes of God.
Absolutely.
Mark, what do you think?
There's an interesting verse in the book of Psalms, chapter 139, verse 20, where it says, your enemies use your name in vain. I like to point that out to people who claim themselves to be Christians and don't live like it. And I'll pull out a verse like, hey, well, what do you think this verse means? It says that your enemies use your name in vain. And usually they'll say, hey, well, I'm no enemy of God. And I go, well, what do you think that verse means? Could it possibly be that you think you're a friend with God? In fact, in Matthew, it says that there's going to be many that are going to say, Lord, Lord. And then they're going to go on with this whole checklist of things that they've done successfully, they think, in the eyes of God. And God's going to say, depart from me, you worker of iniquity, lawlessness. I never knew you. But I like to pull that verse out, Psalm 139, verse 20, that your enemies use your name in vain. So you may look at it as something petty, but it's very serious in the eyes of God.
Yep, enemies of God in our mind through good works, right? Yep. Absolutely.
How do you respond to someone who says he doesn't care if he's going to hell?
He actually does, but he doesn't believe he's going to hell. That's the problem, I mean, we're scared of the dentist. Most people are scared of the dentist. How much more should we be scared of a place called hell? So it's obvious someone doesn't believe they're going to hell because they don't see themselves as worthy of going to hell because they haven't seen their sin in its true light because we haven't opened up the law as we should. So that's what we need to do. Go back to those commandments and open them up, the spiritual nature of the law, and appeal to that conscience, that God-given ally in the heart of the enemy, that impartial judge on the courtroom of the mind that will accuse and excuse, as it says in Romans 2, verse 15.
I find oftentimes that it's the younger people, the kids, teenage kids, high school kids who think they're going to live forever, no thoughts of death. They're often the ones who say, yeah, I'm not concerned about that. And I might say something like, well, what if someone comes running down the street right now with a machine gun firing? What are you going to do? Are you going to stand in front of him and say, hey, go ahead and shoot me, I don't care what happens? Or are you going to run for cover like me and everybody else? So, I'm going to run for cover. Yeah. Well, if you care so much about your physical life, which may go on for 60, 70, 80 years if you're fortunate, shouldn't you care even more for your soul that's going to live for all eternity in one place or another,
Absolutely.
Heaven or hell?
While you're talking, I couldn't help but think of Steve when he said, what makes you think that God would send a nice guy like me?
Oh, Steve, the Mohawk guy in 180. Yeah, that was fascinating.
It's like he's suddenly beginning to see his sin in its true light. But even though as hateful and as nasty as he was at the beginning of but he doesn't see his sin. He thinks he's a good, nice guy.
Right.
And you think, how could anyone? But that's what we're all like. Every man is pure in his own eyes. We think we're the cat's whiskers. Do we say that in America?
We do now. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, that means you just...
Mark, what do you think?
Typically, if somebody doesn't think that they're going to go to hell, or if they don't care if they're going to go to hell, then they have no idea what hell is going to be like. So I'll tend to ask them, hey, well, what do you think hell is like? And they say, well, it's a place where all my buds are going to be there. So whatever it's going to be like, I'm going to be partying there. I'm going to be ruling there. And so I'll correct that misunderstanding. I'll even go, the next step would be, hey, where do you get your information from? You know, because the Bible alone is the foundation for all things truthful concerning places like heaven and hell. You know, I'd ask them, hey, what is Paris, France like? And they could describe to me Paris, France. And I'll say, have you ever been there? They go, nope. And I go, well, how do you know Paris, France is like that? Well, because other people have talked about this place. And I go, exactly. That's what I'm talking about when dealing with hell. The greatest authority we have is Jesus Christ. And he talked more about hell than he did about heaven. So my encouragement to you, who is not very concerned whether or not you're going to go to hell, is to study that out, because I wouldn't want the worst of enemies that I have to go to that place.
The other thing, too, is that when people say, oh, my friends will be in hell, as though there's going to be pleasure in a place that Jesus said there's torment. So an analogy to use is, you know, when you're in the dentist chair and he's hitting that raw nerve, the one that just makes you want to scream, try and think of a pleasant thought that's going to blot out that pain. A wonderful memory. It doesn't do it. You can't even think of something pleasant when you're in pain.
You're right.
And hell will not have a moment's pleasure. You're not going to outwit God. God knows the thoughts and intents of the heart. He sees everything, and you're not going to get you a little bit of pleasure in a place called hell. So we're fearful, and for you, if you're not a Christian, because God's wrath abides on you, and the Bible says, wherefore, knowing the terror of the Lord, we persuade men.
Amen. Amen. I'm spending a lot of time in hospital waiting rooms lately. And whoever
this is another
who's
question?
watching, yes. Yeah. No, I'm not lately, but...
They're not nice places. There's not much to look at on the walls.
I
don't even like touching the magazines in places like that, because everyone with disease has been flicking through them.
You know, as a chaplain for the sheriff's department, I spent way too much time in hospitals visiting injured deputies and or being with family members after the death of a deputy in the line of duty. And man, that is a tough place to minister. And so my hat goes off to hospital chaplains, certainly the biblical ones,
yes,
who are actually there trying to further the gospel. Man, it's a really, really difficult work. But I remember one, you mentioned not wanting to touch anything. I remember in one situation, a hospital administrator dropped her pen on the floor in the hospital. And I went to pick it up for her, and she goes, no! What? We don't pick anything up off the floor in the hospital. Wow. Hey, that's encouraging.
So much disease. That's where all the diseases are all in one place in those hospitals. They keep the doors and windows closed so it's all hot and stuffy so the germs spread. Yeah, it's
Isn't that like
we need to move on.
Isn't the 8th leading cause of death in the U.S. Some sort of doctor
Hospital-related
mistakes?
mistakes.
Yeah, boy, I tend to stay away from hospitals altogether. You know, we used to have a gospel track. I don't know if you remember it, but it was entitled "Words of Comfort."
Yes.
Do you remember that? And then it got replaced with "Something to Think About." But I used to love those little yellow tracks, and I would go into the waiting rooms and I would hand them out to the people. Yeah. We need to bring something like that back.
All right. So to the question, and that's good. To the question. Spending a lot of time in hospital waiting rooms, any advice on witnessing in that environment?
It's no different than in any other environment, although you can segue into it by saying to someone, what are you doing here? They say, oh, my mother's very sick, so would you like to pray for her? I'd love to pray for her now. Yeah. Who's going to say no? Yeah. And then you say, so if you had a Christian background, you know, where are you going when you die? Where do you think? So that's how I'd segue into it, probably.
Yeah.
If you really want to get ambitious... Something I did a few years ago.
Throw pens on the floor.
No, I didn't throw any pens on the floor. There was a hospital in Burbank, and through a friend who he and his wife had just had a baby in that hospital, discovered that there was closed-circuit television to the chapel. And there's a channel on all the televisions in all the hospital rooms, so they could tune into what's going on in the chapel. So I went over to the hospital one day, and I did an open-air sermon to everybody in the hospital from the chapel. Hoping that there'd be some flipping through the channels and go, what's that? And a few people came in and sat down, and we had church right there. And then I, packed up and left before anyone could come and go, hey, what's that guy? The guy's preaching in the chapel of all places.
So where do people see that?
Oh, in their hospital rooms. On their TVs in their hospital rooms, there's a channel specifically dedicated to the chapel.
You
Now,
should've-
that might not be the case in every hospital, but at least in this hospital,
It's a pity you didn't go around to all the rooms and say, "Go to Channel 5, quick, in 2 minutes."
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know, that actually kind of reminds me of when we were up in Canada watching Kirk film Left Behind 2. When we had left, Kirk had the opportunity right after this triage scene where they had this makeshift hospital. Kirk had the opportunity to stand up in the cafeteria on one of the chairs. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember hearing
but,
about it.
Kirk had passed that on to us, and he had the chance to open and preach to everybody that was there, all the cast and the crew. And there was very few people there that claimed the name of Christ that were part of Left Behind. I know that the producers and the directors, they obviously have those leanings, but everybody else did not. And, you know, everybody listened to Kirk being the main actor.
Yeah.
You know, we need to take opportunity. I do what Ray does. You know, if I see somebody who seems a little bit anxious or they're a little distraught, I just go up to them and I go, "Hey, you know, I noticed that you're a little anxious over what's going on. I'm a Christian. Would you mind if I just prayed for you in your circumstance here?" Mm-hmm. And then you'll notice that they tend to just open up during times like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, how would it put ourselves in that position? I'd be thrilled if someone would come up, a stranger come up and say, "Could I pray for you and your family, whatever."
Yeah. The key in that environment, all these, of course, are good ideas, but the key is to be sensitive. Be sensitive to the people around you. Don't be a bull in a china shop.
Right.
You know, these aren't spiritual conquests. These are hurting people.
Right.
So be sensitive as you're sharing the law and the
stay
gospel.
off-
Speak the truth in love.
That's it. And stay off the floor.
Stay off the floor. All right. How should I respond? Minute and a half. How should I respond to someone who says, "Your religion is all about faith"?
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Now, everything is about faith. Absolutely everything. The whole economy is based on faith. The reason we're in a mess is because people have lost confidence. They've lost faith in the system, and so we don't want to go out and spend because we're not sure if we can believe that tomorrow this is going to happen. We don't trust the banks. We don't trust this. Don't trust the government. So everything is based on faith. We're sitting on chairs believing that these chairs are going to uphold us. So we're believing people are watching us at the moment. That's faith.
you know, there's a difference between blind faith and biblical faith. You know,
That's
blind
right.
faith has no perception of reality. You're hoping that hope will get you through to the other side. You're grasping for the wind, and there's no substance to grab a hold of. And we have to remember that biblical faith is the opposite. Biblical faith, we know in whom we trust. So we trust a God who can raise people from the dead, and he's proven it by raising himself from the dead. So we have God's revealed nature and character on who he is, and we place our faith in the only one whom we should place our faith in. So there's the difference between blind faith and biblical faith. And so the challenge to the skeptic or the atheist is, what do you place your faith in?
right.
As a Christian, I place my faith in that which is a greater sustenance than anything that this world has ever seen. I place my faith in the one who created the world. So there's a difference between biblical faith and blind faith, and the skeptic has blind faith.
That's right. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And without faith, it's impossible to please God. But faith is only as reliable as the object of your faith. Your faith must be in Jesus Christ and him alone. Until tomorrow, be encouraged, strengthened, and unafraid. Proclaim the gospel. You're full of it!
Living Waters presents On the Box